Today, we're gathering around the campfire with William, a QHS admin whose life is as exciting and grounding as a hike through the mountains. But what trails did he tread to reach these heights? Let's trek into the wilderness and discover the adventures that led William to where he is today.
Greetings, QHS members and family. My name is William, and I joined QHS family November 27th, 2023. I joined the organization after listening to Alex expound on what to gain from being a member, and talked about frequencies, which I already had been reading up on. And as a matter of fact, I was using sound frequencies, by that time. And so interesting to me. So I joined, and here am I. I was born in a region of West Africa, which is now called Nigeria. At the time of my birth, the British government had control over the territory. So I was effectively British at birth. So when my mother had determined on my coming along that I would be her last child, and in that state, she stated I would be the last child, and that worked out for me because I get loved, protected, and everything else that comes with protecting a baby. I was really, really enjoying myself. I had no responsibilities. Oh, well, this soon ended after I turned 4, when my mother decided that she was through traveling with my father from town to town, village to village, because that's what my father was doing as a Lutheran mission teacher, and doubled sometimes as a preacher also. So this was the case throughout my primary school. My mother would visit us sometimes and would go back to the city, to the town that we came from. And she decided that a nanny should be with me. So there was a nanny that traveled with me, my father, and we'll go from, after my father's transfer, we'll go to some other village or town, wherever it was that the Lutheran mission school was. Like I said, this went on throughout my primary school. And after primary school, I was sent to a boarding school for my high school. What you call high school here is called secondary school. And I stayed at the boarding house throughout my high school, And I really enjoyed myself in high school. I was popular because I was kind of like non-attached to any of those philosophies. I was a member of the debating society. I was also a member of society, and also I played football, which is called soccer here. Football, not competitively, just playing it for fun. I enjoyed playing football. Upon graduation from high school, I had 3 options. I was either going to go to university, or go to work, or join the Air Force Academy, because they were recruiting at that time. Because during my high school years, we had a civil war in Nigeria. It was called Biafran War. It wasn't your average African wars where you have a bush war and in fighting from the jungle. This was a real full-fledged war with jet fighters, bombers, and naval ships, because what was at stake was big, and you had foreign powers involved. Anyhow, after 2 years, the war ended, and we went back to being Nigerians again. I went back to high school, and after graduation, I decided that I had these three options. First was go to work, go to university, or join the Air Force Academy, where you would be shipped at the end of it to Sandhurst, England, to learn how to be, an officer of the Air Force. At least that's what they tell us. So, after weighing my options, I decided that I'd rather go to work, and that's what I did. I told my parents that I would want to go and stay with my oldest brother, who had a residence in Lagos, which was like the biggest city at that time. And I traveled there, and he helped me get a job in the federal ministry, Ministry of External Affairs. They dealt with diplomats, and so I had a job there as a clerk, and I stayed there for like 2 years. What I did essentially was a clerk, and I wrote the vouchers and expenditures, vouchers, and for diplomats abroad. And I got interested in, all the diplomatic affairs and people staying abroad, and then I said, well, maybe this is what I could make a career out of this. I decided to leave. So my brother advised me, since I'm interested in this kind of this line of work, maybe I should go to France and learn the foreign language there. And when I come back, I could join the diplomatic corps as an interpreter. And yeah, that sounded good because it involved traveling outside Nigeria, outside Africa. And I did apply for Alliance Française, which is a foreign language school for foreigners. And, it's easy to get admitted because you pay and then you get your lessons. So I traveled to France. I traveled to Paris and attended the Alliance Française, I attended Alliance Française actually for six months, and then I transferred to some university that did what we did there was, again, continuing with the language school. I got so bored with it, so I decided maybe I should just go back to Nigeria and see what else I can do. And before I left, I met a friend that we were in high school together, and he told me, you want to go back to Nigeria? It's still under a military regime, and you're better off either staying here or traveling to England or United States. I did go to England. At that point, they called you a Commonwealth citizen, so we didn't need a visa to go in. I just went across the English Channel, and I was in London. Anyhow, I came back to France and decided that I'm going to try going to the United States. In order to do that, I had to get a visa, and I had to get a school to come to the United States. So I got a school, took the test of English, and then I took the what they call it, SAT, and all that, all the stuff that is required. I passed in flying colors because for somebody that went through the curriculum we did in using the one we had then, it was easier for me. The test was, and I got it, went to the embassy to get a visa. They told me, you must go back to Nigeria to get the visa. That way you'll be properly checked out. So I traveled back to Nigeria. I went there, went to the embassy, presented all the papers I had, and they told me, okay, they gave me a visa. So to the U.S. I come. And on reaching here, I did go to my the school that I applied for, and I was there when I got there. At first, the first year, I didn't go into what I wanted to do. Just as usual, take liberal arts classes, and then I decided that my major would be computer science. I had the grades to get in there, so I went. My major was, they used to call it computer science, and now they have different names for it. And so I went in there for the curriculum. And the good thing with that curriculum was that you learn everything that had to do with computer. The basic language that controls the electronics in the computer, assembler and every other stuff we learned. So you learn the computer architecture, which if you didn't get a job, you would be able to put the computer together. And that's what I studied. In the end, upon my graduation, I started the postgraduate classes, like something to do with studying languages that dealt with the AI, something like C++ and all that. And then after the first semester, because I had been applying for jobs during this time, I got called by a consulting company that was based in the Farmington Hills in Michigan there. And they asked me if would want to interview for a job. At that point I wanted to work. So I went and interviewed. I got hired and then sent right out. And that time they had started doing the Y2K projects where the computer stuff, where the addresses and the dates were changed because we had to the computer ready for year 2000. And at the same time, so I was with this company for a while, and after about 2 years, I decided I would like to go to some other company. Well, a friend of mine told me, of course, they were paying slightly above what the CompuWare was paying. So I went there. They posted me to a Ford Motor Company, in the Ford Motor Credit division. That's where we did. We worked with I worked with the mainframe, programming, writing COBOL codes and assembler, and doing a database, accessing database to get the information for things and the programs that we wrote. Anyhow, I really enjoyed the job. And so I enjoyed the program. And at the end, I decided to try some other stuff. So I went and applied, and then they got me to start doing writing for, instead of, I used to, when I want to write a code, I have to go through the specs, the high-level specs that they were writing for me. Then I translate the high-level specs into low-level specs and then code it. And so I decided to be the one that writes the high-level specs. And I did that for about a year. And then at this time, I had decided that this is the time to start a family. I got married to, a lady that we used to go to some New Age stuff together. And, we raised a son who is now a father also. I mean, everything, life was really nice, and we lived a good family. I mean, we weren't wealthy, but we made enough income to live comfortably. And after that, it went on. I mean, we had a nice marriage for 20 years. And then things started changing, which I knew there was a problem. We had some unresolved issues from the past, especially my wife, and then we decided to part, and I decided if we were to break up, I'm not going to be staying in Michigan anymore. So I decided that I will move west, like you see in the cowboy movies, go west, young man. So I moved to Washington State, and this at Washington State when I first got here, there was no job for me, so I had to improvise. I opened a shop doing stuff like, hardware and software, upgrading, spyware and all the stuff we do with the computer repair shop. I know about that because, like I said, we did computer architecture, and we know how things work inside, and inside the computer. So it wasn't until 2010 that I started having a health problem. One day I woke up and I had this pain in my chest that was so unbearable, and then I started not being able to breathe. I called 911, who took me to the emergency, where they looked. They said, "Okay, you have a blocked artery, and they can't. The only way they could declare it is to put a stent in it." So that's what they did. They put a stent in the artery. I stayed there for 3 days, and then I was back home. And this was just the beginning. I started having problems with my high blood pressure. It went up to sometimes to 189 or so. That's I think it's the systolic. Yeah, it went up to that. And so I had to start taking blood pressure medication. And then, that eventually, and exercising, I had to change my lifestyle around completely, which it wasn't easy, but I did it. And everything was fine until 2022. 2022 May, I had the same issue again. My artery was blocked, but this time it was severely. It was so hard. The doctor, they call it a widowmaker, something like that. Something that I decided I have to have a change. I have to find other ways of handling my health. And I started getting, extra help from my friends, doing different exercises and taking the supplementary items to help, especially with the blood pressure. And I've been in that course. Then, on November 11th, that same year, 2022, I had the same problem again. And I was determined that I was going to make sure this doesn't happen again. and I am in the process of that, then that is part of why I am with the QHS. And I hope that, not hope, I have faith that this will work, because I know deep inside me, not intellectually, that frequency is everything, and everything is frequency. It's, before it was, intellectually, you say, oh yeah, frequencies this, but now I know from what I learn and have experienced with QHS that frequency is everything. Thank you.
Join us on the Prequel, where every story matters and every voice is heard. Because here at QHS, we're all about healing, learning, and growing together.